What is going on, everyone? It's your guy Cole Jackson back here on Road Graders, and we are going to be turning the page, getting focused on Week 7 Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Much like we did last week, I want to take a look at the Bucs offense, really what their key focus is, and it's going to stay with a similar theme. We looked at Terry McLaurin ahead of last week's game. And, Terry McLaurin scored 2 touchdowns, but oddly enough, the focus I wanted to see them have in terms of limiting the deep ball, they actually did a really good job against. Where Terry McLaurin killed them was in the red zone, and both of those were on goal-to-go situations, both of his touchdowns, but he didn't really kill them deep. He had one of the lowest average per receptions of the season, so they did do a good job of limiting them. Now we're going to take a look at Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, one of the best duos in the NFL for wide receiver tandems, and two guys that are vastly different in terms of skill set. It's going to be a huge test for Zach Orr. If you guys are looking forward to this breakdown, if you're fired up for Monday Night Football, like I know I am, hit that like button for me. Hit subscribe if you're new here. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this matchup. And before we get into it, I would imagine most of the comments are going to be the Ravens got to score 40 to win this game. And, based on how the defense has looked against these two stud receivers going against this secondary, I have to say maybe not 40, but the Ravens are going to have to put up points in this matchup. We got two high scoring offenses. And when you take a look here, you're going to really we're going to get into this pretty much, but I can't really find a better chart to kind of show what I've noticed on tape. So you're going to see bottom is percentage of routes against single coverage, and you're going to see Mike Evans and Chris Godwin over there to the right-hand side. So they are two of the highest proportioned receivers at getting routes against single coverage, and then you're going to see Mike Evans, one of the best at getting separation in those concepts. If you look at all routes run, Mike Evans is one of the best at getting separation in the NFL. Chris Godwin also up there, but this is really what I noticed because the Bucs do a really good job at creating offensive plays where they're getting Evans or Godwin in single looks, especially when they're not working them over the middle of the field, but creating those single looks and, letting them go up and just make plays against corners. And that's really what the Ravens have struggled with. It's when they've created one-on-one situations deep and the receivers have just been making plays that the Ravens DBs haven't been able to make. And if you look at best QB receiver duos through week 6, Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin are the best in total EPA. They have one of the highest success rates, second highest, behind Josh Allen and Khalil Shakir. And there's a little bit of a snap count thing going on there, just because, as you can see, that's based off 53 targets. So you're going against one of the best duos, and that's with Chris Godwin. I don't think they repeated, so you won't see Baker Mayfield with Mike Evans, but I would imagine they're also quite high. So it just really puts into perspective the fact that Godwin's the highest in total EPA, and Mike Evans is still seen as the number one. Now, they may be a 1A, 1B, but you're going against 2B. So really what I want to do now is we're going to start with Chris Godwin, and then we'll take a look at Evans later and really look at how they're winning so much. Because I think when we look at Chris Godwin, he's the one I'm more worried about, as odd as that may sound. Because I'll drop the links down below, but I've focused a ton when I look at the Ravens defensive scheme. I did it after the Bengals game and after the Cowboys game, and they have a soft middle of the field. And this is where Chris Godwin does such good work, and you're going to see it right here. They're going to motion the top receiver down. Chris Godwin's at the top of your screen, and they're just going to work right in the area that's been killing the Ravens. And what kills the Ravens, scheme-wise, obviously guys are making plays in one-on-one situations on the perimeter, but this area right here is the spot that kills the Ravens. It's that 8 to 12 yard range, middle of the field, and this is where Roquan Smith is struggling in this new dime defense. Less nickel, more dime. They're moving Kyle Hamilton all around, and Roquan's being asked to take massive underhook zones. And so you're going to get Chris Godwin. Actually, this receiver is going to motion down. They're both going to run in-breaking routes, and it's just going to clear it out, and Baker's going to hit Chris Godwin right here. And we've looked at this a number of times, underneath the safety, over top of the linebackers, and that's where Chris Godwin does his best work. And you're going to see it right there on the break, ball out, right over the linebacker's head. And this is just something that we're going to see throughout multiple games. Chris Godwin in the slot here at the bottom of your screen. working that in-breaking route right there, 8 to 12 yards, catches that crossing route. And so this is something that the Ravens have struggled to defend, and you're going to see right here, they're going to actually get lost in a little bit of man coverage here. It looks like they got too high, and the Ravens don't run a lot of too high, but they do run a lot of those combo coverages in the middle, and he's just going to run an over route. And Baker's going to beat the pressure here in the backfield, step up, set his feet, get that ball out. So that, and even if, you know, that ball was thrown late because of the pressure, but you could see right off the in-breaking route, that it was open, it was there, and that's where Chris Godwin is just going to kill teams. And he's going to do most of it from the slot. They like to run Evans on the perimeter, Godwin in the slot. You're going to see another in-breaking route here. This gets them lined up on the 2-yard line, I believe. There's that area over top of the linebackers, underneath the safeties. And if you go back and you watch especially the video against the Cowboys, these are the concepts, this exact one, that killed the Ravens. In fact, that play that went to Robert Turpin that set up the 1-yard Dak Prescott sneak, it came from the other side of the field. He went left to right rather than right to left like you're seeing in this play. But right here, got them down to the 1-yard line. Almost an identical concept. It's just that up crossing route over top of the linebackers. So definitely something that I'm worried about, that soft middle of the field scheme-wise, because that's something that Zach Orr has not been able to solve. Like, if you guys watch my video on the Bengals, and again, I'll link both below, I was pretty easy going on Zach Orr after the Bengals game because I just saw so many execution issues from the DBs that I wasn't willing to assign ton of blame to Zach Orr for those specific plays. But the middle of the field is soft, and I do think it's scheme, and this is where Godwin could kill them. He's going to motion to the outside at the bottom of your screen, but then just bam, in breaking route. Goes for a first down. It's pretty consistent throughout these reps. They're going to motion Mike Evans in there. Now Evans and Godwin are both in the slot. Godwin's going to be right here in the inner slot. This is against the Broncos. And just run that little dig. Work that middle of the field. That's just what Chris Godwin does so well. Top of your screen in the slot once again against the Eagles here. In breaking route. And again, just catching that crossing route. And a couple of those came against pretty tight coverages. He's just really good at making those plays. Now here he is. He's going to motion down to the bottom of your screen. You saw the motion come. Saints are playing man. And they are just going to take full advantage in the red zone. Again, slant route. And a nice catch and tight separation. Now, here's the thing about Chris Godwin, though. So it isn't all just working the middle of the field, and that's where the Ravens are going to struggle. And that's where a guy like Arthur Millette coming back or moving Marlon Humphrey into the slot against Chris Godwin may be the play, because Chris Godwin can also do this. So here he's in the outward slot here. They motion the tight end across. I believe that's Kate Otten. And you're going to get Godwin setting up plays like this, where he's just breaking that out route. So you got to have those inside releases and those outside releases from your slot corners. He's going to be outside here, but then just, again, work that out route. So it isn't just, crossing routes. You're going to see him here against he mostly works in that range that is the 0 to 15. Not a lot of deep balls going to him. That's what they use Mike Evans for. So now we'll transition into Mike Evans, take a look at his game, and where he's been killing teams. When the Bucs are on the 2-3 yard line, they don't have power backs. Well, they might now that they're using Tucker, but with Bucky Irvin, Rashad White, more finesse backs, they've been actually using Mike Evans and Chris Godwin when they're kind of goal to go inside the 5 rather than running it. And Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, we just saw one from Chris Godwin, but Mike Evans has 3 touchdowns inside the 5-yard line as a receiver. It's just crazy stuff, and he's able to do stuff like this. So they're going to line him up in the slot here. Godwin's going to be outside. That's one thing I've noticed watching these Mike Evans snaps. He's playing more in the slot this year, where they're just moving him and Godwin around. And again, it goes back to that chart I showed you guys at the start of the video. They're trying to create single coverage situations to work both players into the game plan. So you run it through here, and he's just going to run 50-50 ball here. And that's kind of what their go-to is with Mike Evans, because he's so damn good at it. Right in here, it's kind of the exact same route. 2 touchdowns in a row. So let's watch them both through again. Different formations. Makes it look a little different. But just beat your guy. And he's going to get that kind of, what do they call that? Corner corner flag, like that flag route right there, break it off, flag route right into the pylon. And that's really where they're able to use Mike Evans. Here, this is going to be the third one. I want to show all of them. Falcons defense just loses it. This isn't obviously a ton of separation here. It looks like they were in man and 24. He just got caught sleeping. Mike Evans is just wide open there, so don't want to gloat too much about that because that just looked like a busted coverage. But you guys see what I mean. That's the type of stuff that Mike Evans can do in the red zone, and he's going to be, that's where I think if you guys remember the second Terry McLaurin touchdown, they got a 5-yard penalty before they got the touchdown. And I remember when I was watching the game, I said I almost preferred they didn't get the 5-yard penalty because they ran it twice, got stuffed by the Ravens run D. Now they're third and 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, and they're in a passing situation, and that's when Terry cooked Brandon Stephens off the line. So, I almost prefer putting those teams in running situations, but you can see from the Bucs, they don't care. They want to pass the ball in those situations because they can exploit Godwin and Evans in those situations and get them into single coverage. And now you're going to see Evans do what he does so well, and that's just work the sidelines outside the numbers. So he's going to do it from the slot here. Again, they're moving him around a lot more this year than I ever recall. They're going to just use a combination here with a curl, a 9, and then a post, or not a post, sorry, a corner route, and they're just trying to flood those zones, right? So they want to create, either you're pulling the deep corner here while also occupying, maybe if they're in cover 2, that would pull the cover 2 over, and then the flat corner here would have to take that zone, and then they're just going to work that in. So just a bit of a zone beater there. Anything like cover 3, cover 4, cover 2, it's going to be really tough to play against that combination. So they're really good at creating those opportunities. And then Mike Evans is able to do things like this. One-on-one, again, we are in that single coverage situation. They're playing one high, and they're just going to throw that ball up to Mike Evans. And, this is a play. If you watch the touchdowns that the Ravens have allowed this year on bigger plays, like this is, DB back to the ball. Hard to not picture Brandon Stephens doing that exact thing. I just did a video on him, and it's not that he's allowing separation, blowing coverages. It's just that ball goes up for 50-50 balls, and they come down with a lot more than Brandon Stephens is able to stop. And there we are working outside those numbers again. This one's just going to be on a deep curl back, deep comeback if you want to call it. It doesn't come all the way back, but this is what he does so well too. So Lions are going to drop into zone here. You see right there, corner flips his hips, and they start to drop back. And as he does, Evans is going to get into that full sprint and eat that zone. And you can see right there, it forces the Lions DB to sprint back, and then he's able to just, at this size, curl back. And Baker hits him in stride, separation, boom, outside the numbers. So this is where the Ravens have their hands full at having to stop these two. Completely different players, different route combinations. Here we're just going to work an outbreaking route. And what they do so well here is when they motion 10 across, that forces the corner to have to adjust to him as the outer receiver, and it creates a one-on-one situation against the safety. And so they're going to be in zone, but Evans is just going to eat up that safety. You can't end up with a safe curl, whatever you want to call it. He's going to be in the slot here. Boom. These plays are just tough. He's just going to attack this slot corner, break him inside, crack back out, create that separation. Easy work. So the Ravens have their hands full in this one, folks. But that's really what I've seen from these two. It's very different usages, and I think that's one of the key things here, because I do think you can put a game plan together that limits one. I don't really know how you put a game plan together that limits both, given the Ravens' defensive issues. Now, the question is, do you want to, focus on taking away the deep ball, taking away the sideline game as much as you can against Mike Evans, and much like you did against Terry McLaurin, make them make big plays, contested catch situations. Obviously, Mike Evans, one of the best in the NFL at that. Or do you want to condense, shorten up that middle of the field? Maybe you play more nickel, try and take away some of those soft zones and take Chris Godwin away, and then force Mike Evans to beat you. You know, it's much like we talked about last week with the Ravens offense. It is very much a pick your poison because they have two guys that can beat you in such drastically different ways. I didn't put it in the video, but Chris Godwin also runs a ton of screens, but that's not something that's really hurt the Ravens defense this year. So I'm not as concerned about that. But again, it's, you know, you got your short, middle of the field type guy in Chris Godwin, your deep sideline guy in Mike Evans. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what one you guys would want to take away and really focus on. How would you adjust to make sure the Ravens can shut this down so it doesn't have to be another 41-38 win? And as always, if you enjoyed this breakdown, if this helped you get ready for Monday night, hit that like button for me. Hit subscribe if you're new here. And as always, be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.